Hello and welcome back. I'm here with another lecture from organic chemistry. And this chapter, we will be talking about nuclear magnetic resonance spectroscopy, or NMR. Okay, and let's go after it. NMR is one of the most common actually and useful technique in organic chemistry or chemistry that we use it to identify structure of molecules. In NMR, we are dealing with two things. One is radiation, or technically the frequency that we are sending to the compound, and the second is the nucleus. It depends what type of nucleus we have inside the molecule. We get a different number of peaks, and also their position will be in maybe a different place. And we're talking about organic chemistry. In organic chemistry, you will be dealing mainly with carbon and hydrogen atoms. And I want to know how, for example, those carbon and hydrogen atoms are attached to each other. Do we have a single bond between carbon-carbon, or a double bond? And do I have CH or CH3? I want to know that part. Or technically, I want to know the way they are connected to each other, or structure of the molecule. Structure of the molecule, or the way the atoms are attached to each other, whether they are cis, trans, and same side or opposite, will affect the spectrum, the shape of the spectrum that we get. So how about this? The shape of the molecule will affect technically the way the molecule will react with the radiation that we are sending to it. Remember, the radiation, it will be the eyes that we are using to watch or to see the molecule. And the way the molecule interact with the radiation, that's going to actually give us an idea about the structure of the molecule. What do we have inside the nucleus? We know we have protons and neutrons. Protons come with a positive charge, while the neutron is neutral. Now, I said nuclear magnetic resonance. I know a proton has a positive charge, and any particle that carries a positive or negative charge, it can create a magnetic field to whenever start moving. But how about the neutron? Neutron is neutral. So how come neutron has a magnetic field? And let's go after that one before I continue, the review rest of this slide. So protons and neutrons are made of three particles, and we call them quarks. And if I go through the protons has, as I said, has the three particles, and two of them, they have a charge of +2/3, and one of them is -1/3. If I add them, the total charge, it will be +1. And that's the reason proton is it has a +1 charge. Now, because it has a positive charge, and that particle is going to have a magnetic field, and we know. And how about the neutron? Neutron has one particle with a +2 positive charge, and two of them with -1/3. When I add them, the total charge for the proton, it will be 0. But each of this quark, each of them has a spin. Okay, and again, because each of this particle you're talking about, like we're talking about quark, whether they are up or down, and because they have charges, they will have magnetic field. And when I add the magnetic fields for each quark in protons or neutrons, I get this spin. I get +1/2 for the proton and the same number for the neutrons. And because I have, I have positive or negative particles inside the neutrons and protons, I'm going to have a magnetic field. Now, it depends whether they are rotating clockwise or counterclockwise. The direction of the magnetic field is going to be different. And so imagine on the left side, we have a particle that is rotating counterclockwise in this actually plane. Perpendicular to this plane, we're going to have a magnetic field. And if we decide to change the direction of the rotation, the magnetic field, again, is going to be opposite of it, perpendicular to it. But this time it will be pointing down. So I had one magnetic field pointing up, and well, this one is pointing down. Okay. Now, I said we know we have protons and neutrons, and they do have spins. And because they do have spins, I expect them to have some magnetic field and interact with the radiation that we are applying. We are applying electromagnetic wave. And because it's an electromagnetic wave, it can have interaction with the magnetic field of the nucleus. Now, if you have like odd number of protons or odd number of neutrons, you can have technically an NMR-active, or we say nuclear spin, and that's a species that can be detected by NMR. And what will happen if both of them are odd, protons and neutrons? Still, they will, okay, that's actually a nucleus. It will be active in NMR, but we say the magnetic moment, it will be different number, and we will talk about that one. So I said, if we have odd number of protons or neutrons, we're going to have magnetic moment and or spin value, and that I show it by I. And that I is going to be equal to half. And same thing for the second one, which says like if you have odd number of neutrons, again, the spin is going to be half. And what will happen if both of them are odd, the protons and neutrons? For example, let's say hydrogen. For hydrogen, we say we have only one proton, and because we have only one proton, so we're going to have a spin, and we're going to have I equal to plus 1 over, or 1 over 2, just simply 1 over 2. What will happen if I get the isotope of it and make it deuterium, or say this, H2? In that case, because we have one proton and one neutron, so one proton and one neutron, spin is going to be, in this case, spin is going to be equal to 1. And so we say we have a whole number or integer number for the spin. Before, like I go to the rest of this slide, I want to mention this, that's why carbon 12 is not active in NMR. Well, we can use actually carbon 13. Carbon 12, it has 6 protons, and if I subtract them from 12, I get 6 neutrons. So I have 6 protons and 6 neutrons. Both numbers are even, and we said we need to have at least one of them to be odd. And that's the reason carbon 12 is not active. While carbon 13, it has 6 protons, and if I subtract them from 13, I get 7 neutron. Yes, the protons, number of protons is even, but neutron, we got it odd and is equal to 7, and that's the reason carbon 13, it will be active in NMR, but carbon 12 is not. All this, like discussion that we're talking about, it is happening inside the nucleus. We say nuclear magnetic resonance. Nuclear is talking about stuff that's happening inside the nucleus. Magnetic is involved in magnetic field, okay? Magnetic field of the nucleus with the radiation that we are applying. And resonance, what's the resonance? Resonance, something that is happening inside the nucleus, okay? So until now, only thing I'm talking about is happening inside the nucleus, okay? So I have a proton or neutron that can have a spin, okay? And that one, whenever it starts moving, it will create magnetic field around it. Now, what will happen if I apply external magnetic field? And the external magnetic field, I'm going to show it by B0, okay? If we apply magnetic field, very soon the spin or the vectors of the nucleus, they can be completely random. They will try to align with external field. If the external field is pointing up, if the external field is pointing up, and as you see in this case, vector is pointing up, then I'm going to get spin of nucleus, same direction, and align with external field, and that's going to give us a state that we call it alpha state. Or maybe they will be pointing down, opposite of the magnetic field that we applied, and that's going to give us a beta state. So I got 2 states, one alpha spin state, and the second one is beta spin state. Alpha spin state, it has lower energy, while the beta spin state, it has higher energy. Okay, now if you apply enough energy to change or to flip the spin of the state, spin of the nucleus from alpha spin state, turn it to beta spin state, in that case, we say the nucleus is technically under resonance. That means the nucleus got radiation. Which radiation? Radio frequency that we send it to it. We send energy enough to change or flip the spin, okay, from alpha to beta. And what will happen if I stop the radiation? Now, very soon, the spin will turn back to the alpha, and it will shoot at the energy that we gave it. We can go after that energy that got emitted and measure that energy. That energy, it will give us an idea what type of element we are dealing with, and what's the environment, okay? Environment. I'm talking about the 3D environment, entire of the magnetic field around that atom. We can actually figure out that magnetic field or the environment and figure, for example, whether it's a CH3 or CH2. Okay. The gap between alpha spin state and beta spin state is subject to the magnetic field. And like any NMR, that machine that you buy, and it has like a big number, bold number written on it. It says 60, 300, or 400, 500. It goes up. And as you increase the magnetic field, as I said, the gap between alpha and beta, it will get bigger. That's going to actually give you more detailed info, or we say the resolution of the spectrum that you will get, it will go up.